Welcome to Lagniappe Live, the Business Spotlight, a space where bold women are seen, real stories are honored, and business is built with purpose. Hosted by Helena Richardson, founder and CEO of H Rich Networks, former NASA IT specialist, digital strategist, and community builder. From New Orleans roots to national impact, Helena brings together technology, storytelling, and service, creating platforms where women lead boldly and communities grow stronger. This is where journeys are shared, voices are amplified, and legacy is built together. I'm so glad you're here. Let's introduce today's guest.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lagniappe Live, the Business Spotlight. Today we are honored to host Dr. Daria Brezinski, PhD. Dr. Brezinski is a licensed psychologist and autism specialist who serves as an adjunct professor, author, and veteran TV radio host. She founded Fun on the Spectrum, a nonprofit program teaching life skills and social skills to autistic individuals, and she is the executive director of What Wise Women Want, where she mentors women entrepreneurs. With over 20 years of experience, Dr. Brzezinski brings deep expertise in neurodiversity, leadership, and community impact. Please join me in giving a warm lanyard welcome to Dr. Daria Brzezinski. Let's get started here. Welcome to Lanyard Live. I'm looking around to see where my windows are, and I keep seeing where it's saying that it's upcoming, so I hope we're recording. But at any rate, we're going to get started. As I said, it's a pleasure to have you here today with us. And let's get started with your first question. Now,
Okay.
when we think about the work you do and the leadership that you have made a meaningful impact with your audience and your community, and I'm just excited for our audience to hear about your journey. Um, so for those of you who for those who may be meeting you for the first time, can you introduce yourself and share the mission behind your brand and what inspired your focus on autism support and women's empowerment?
Well, thank you very much. So the autism that you started to talk about, it so happens that my eldest son is autistic, and he's a beloved member of the community. He's happy, he's successful. And parents started coming to me and asking me to do for their child what I did for mine. What they didn't know was that I'm also autistic, and I've overcome my own, social and neuroatypical challenges. And so between those two things, I became really successful in terms of working with people with autism, improving their daily lives, either their home or if it's their job or in the classroom, whatever it is. There's a lot of different characteristics I hope we'll get into with autism. And so, like personal hygiene and communication and things of that nature. And then what happens is that my business has been word of mouth, specifically from parents who were really happy what I did, told other parents who told psychologists. And I also, in order to help a lot of my autistic adults, I belong to 9 chambers of commerce. I speak at everywhere that I get asked, at Rotaries, all kinds of community centers, all kinds of people ask me to talk. My mission is to help to teach people about autism. And I think that's really important because there's a lot of misinformation about it. My course that I teach is called Autism, the causes, the
Mhm.
characteristics, and the choices we make in terms of helping them. And so what happens is that and of course I keep studying all the time. But to answer the second part of your question is oftentimes working with autistics 24/7, I become burned out.
Mm.
And so in the process, I mean, I'm 77 years old. In the process, I've become a socially responsible serial entrepreneur. I started the first holistic health center I look for niche markets. I started the first holistic health center in Philadelphia called Life Creations. I started Earthwise, the first environmentally friendly wholesale retail store, and Earth Heart Foundation. I built a skateboard park in Charlottesville, and I have what you referred to as my women's group. And my women's group was started because my three best friends died within a year.
Mm.
And I don't know if you know, it leaves a gap in your life. And so what happened was once I, was able to compose myself again, I decided to start having the women that I knew in the community, business women, to come to a monthly meeting. And they were all business women that I knew. And frankly, they were all business. And it kind of wasn't the image I had in my mind. But I let it go over time. And eventually it evolved into the kind of women who support each other and interrelate with each other. And then that evolved into my TV show, What Wise Women Want. And what the show is all about is, and you can find it on YouTube or public television, CPA TV. And that's all about supporting women, teaching them how to be on camera, as well as helping them promote their businesses. So my moniker is inspiring parents' roles to guide children's souls. That's for my autism, and empowering individual voices to make informed choices. And what else has happened in the process is I get to speak all over the country about what I discovered in the process of doing all this research on autism is that every school shooter I studied was autistic. And so I've written a lot of articles about that as well. So um, if you know anything about autism, we follow our passion. And so it looks like I have this checkered background, but I follow my passion wherever it is that it leads me. So that's my mission in my startup.
That's awesome. And we kind of have the same background in instance of losing a friend. And you have so many platforms, and you talk about your age, but you look great, you're still getting around, you're still here for one. I think what keep you young is all of the platforms that you are engaged in, or the various activities, events, and so forth. I
I
think
didn't even tell you that I bought a 5-acre property that was a fixer-upper property for the last 5 years. And I've been on my downtime, I work on that.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, continue to stay young and beautiful.
Oh, thank
So,
you.
question number two. Um, this is about on audience and impact. So, who are the primary communities you serve, and what core needs are you most passionate about addressing, whether that's family of autism, young adults, educators, or professional women?
Well, I will say all of the above. My perspective obviously is, very unique because I'm a mother, a grandmother, a businesswoman, a psychologist, so and a professor, as well as doing, TV and radio. So I have this unique perspective. My clients are ages 4, and right now I have a 55-year-old. So
Oh.
what that does is, when I'm working with children, I recognize what kinds of skills they're going to need in the future. So that's why it really helps me in the adult autistic community. There are very few people who know how to work with adults. I also work with both the speaking and non-speaking community.
Oh.
And working with the non-speaking community is really amazingly challenging. obviously because the difficulty in communication. There's no
True.
one size fits all for, the work that I do.
Mhm.
And what happens is what I can glean from the information that is given to me. I do in-depth studies of the entire family. And I work with both, if it's the parents, the grandparents, I even work with great grandparents and siblings. And I get different perspectives and I find out birthing, what happened during their birth, if any of the characteristics that I see in the children are, showing up in parents or grandparents. And for the majority of young people and older people that I work with, I can see the vestiges of autism in them. So the
Mm.
different practices that I use are medical anthropology, narrative medicine, and functional medicine. And you can go on my LinkedIn page. I give a definition of those. But basically, I do a flow chart of, everything that's ever happened to this child. And frankly speaking, you know, I have to spend a great deal of time, not just working with the individual, but I have to work with the whole family, the
Mhm.
school. I just did a 12-page summary for a school in South Carolina for one of my clients because they couldn't understand how she learned. And so I had to break it down bit by bit. Um, so I become the mentor, the coach, the advocate, whatever it is that they need,
Mhm.
because they struggle um, academically, intellectually, developmentally, emotionally. And so I have to work with everybody, the caregivers, the educators, the parents, even a lot of them go to live with grandparents in order to be able to help them get into the right place because oftentimes grandparents are retired. And so
Right.
many of the skills that, some of the skills that, I have to work with, I basically put in 4 different categories, which are, um, you know, uh, personal in terms of communication. I also do teamwork. I also do professionalism. So, and each one of those are characteristics you can break down into, different categories depending on what the person really needs. And so um, that's basically what I do. Um, so, in terms of what it is that they need, everybody is different.
Mhm.
There's no one size fits all. It's called a spectrum for a reason because, at the lower end of the spectrum, some people have no skills whatsoever and will never function independently. And at the other end of the spectrum, you might have somebody with 140 IQ who is, functioning at a very high level. And I see the entire spectrum. So I have to sit down and really work through what it is that what kinds of skills they have and what kinds of skills. And the thing about my clients is, especially those who can talk for themselves, is that I ask them what their goals are. I ask the parents what the goals are, give me 3 goals, and I ask the young people that I work with what their goals are. And inevitably, every time the young people say to me, it's either education or a job. I want a boyfriend or girlfriend, and I want people to like me.
Mm.
And so, fitting in is really important to many of the people that I work with.
Yeah, fitting in is I mean, even you think about when we were in grade school and so forth, even as adults, we are at parts where we are trying to fit in or, et cetera. I wanted to, and this kind of little off cuff for what we, um, just with everything that you're doing, the impact on your audience and so forth. How do you stay afloat? Because I know that it can be a challenge. I have a sister that is mentally challenged, and I'm just wondering, how do you stay sane? How do you um, just be able to move forward
Balance.
and to function, working with so many people of special needs.
Well, I'll be honest with you, they have access to me 24/7, which is why I'm so successful at what I do. And so what happens is I have had to learn over time to balance my life. So
Mhm.
this 5-acre property has 19 flower gardens, vegetable garden. I have orchards. Uh, and so I go outside and I dig in the dirt. Unfortunately, last year I got 8 tick bites and got alpha gal. So I'm a little leery, this year of going out with all the ticks that are around these days. But
I'm
I
sure.
do that. But I'm also my I saw my doctor the other day and he tried to prescribe a prescription drug for me. And I said, in 77 years, I've never taken a prescription drug. What I do is I go to a doctor, find out what's wrong, and then I go to alternative medicine, whether it's supplements or whatever it is. So at my age, for example, it looks like I might have high cholesterol, so I take a supplement for that. I also, the alpha gal, I take a homeopathic remedy for that. So the different things that I have, I find alternative solutions, and I think that's I meditate, I pray before I get up in the morning.
Mhm.
And I constantly communicate. I get up at 5:30 and I constantly communicate with people on social networking. But I have a different attitude than other people in business. My attitude is to give to others. And I believe that the more you give to others, the more that you receive, but without asking for something back or the expectation of asking for something back. So I believe that the more you give, the more relationships that you build, um, that's what feeds me. And these young people, when I see, when I have an autistic who's 38 years old, never spoken, lived in his parents' basement, is now a successful civil engineer, that's my reward.
Mhm.
Or a 10-year-old who's a headbanger and screams all the time, has never been in school, gone to 42 different therapists, and is now in school. So those, I know that it takes time. We're in a, quick fix society where everybody wants everything fast, but
Yes.
both in business and in my work, I understand I have to build trust with my clients. They have to know that I am listening to them. I do that before I even start teaching them any skills. They need to know that I hear them and that I'm listening. And once I build that trust, I mean, I have a mother of a 22-year-old right now, and she keeps saying to me, he talks to you more than he does us. I mean, this is unbelievable, all the things that he tells you. So, and the other thing is that, it's rewarding to me that I'm autistic. I know that sounds crazy,
Mm.
but I know how to ask the right questions. I know how we think. And so it helps me to help that person. And what happens is I'll ask a question, they'll go, how did you know that? So I replenish myself through the success of others, through advocating for others, I mean, I've introduced several women to come to your group from
Mhm.
where I live. And, that's who I am. I don't, I didn't expect anything from the 2 women I sent there. But I know that, more is more. It's not a pie that's, that you cut up into pieces and you give part and you give part. You get back as much as you give. And that's my
Absolutely.
personal philosophy. And I think that's what that and I'm an organic, I eat organically. I don't eat anything sprayed. I can my own food, my own vegetables. And so I came from a 2 sets of families. I'm only a second generation American who were farmers
Mm.
who lived off the land. And so I continued that with myself and my own children who are all healthy as well.
That's amazing. That is awesome. I think it's important, especially as we get older, right, to take care of ourselves. And as you know, that's the one reason why I started this group, because of the loss of of my girlfriend, and also for us as women, because we wear so many hats. And oftentimes it's not that we don't take care of ourselves, but we love what we do. We're caregivers, or whatever we're doing, we want to do the best, that be the best at it. So we oftentimes just, I think, just do, right? And in doing, we end up either realizing that we didn't take care of ourselves, and so our health began to fail, or some things of that nature. So yeah, it's so important to eat right, to exercise, to get rest. That devotion and praying, that's a mental part of our being, and so that is so important. So
Well, it sets the day when I mean, I don't get out of bed before I pray. I
yes.
have I have affirmations that I say, and I meditate, and I try to get my mind completely clear. And I cannot tell you the days I don't have time to do that, my day doesn't go as well. And so I have understood over time that this is really an important part of life. Whatever your religion is, whatever your spiritual persuasion is, that's the time you take for yourself to get mentally prepared for the day. And it's extremely, extremely important. Women tend, we are all about relationships. I don't know that I'm not a man, so I don't know that part, but most of the men that I work with don't even have friends. And so, we are all about relationships. And frankly speaking, sometimes we have to be really cautious about and discriminate in terms of our relationships, because they can often, um, there's a fine line here with giving and with discriminating with who will keep taking from you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I had a mother from Taiwan. She read an article that I had written about adults and autistic adults in business. She called me Sundays, like every month for 10 years. I
Wow.
knew there was something she wanted. And I finally said to her, Martha, bring your son here to America. He was 50 years old when she brought him here. He had never held a full-time job. I knew that in her heart, she really wanted help and she didn't know what to do. So she brought him here. No lie, I got him independent. He's been in a full-time job for 5 years. Now he's now 55. And within 2 years of getting him independent, his mother died of cancer.
Oh.
So, you have to know when to discriminate with people who are going to drain you. I mean, I've had to tell siblings to grow up
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, because they felt this is this is why I work with the whole family. Oftentimes, siblings have a problem because the autistic got all the attention and they didn't, and they need therapy as well
Mm-hmm.
because, like the headbanger, the 10-year-old, once he became successful and in school, his two younger siblings decided, well, Daria pays attention to our brother when he's screaming, so let's all scream. So I had to work with them.
Oh my, I mean, I've been through that, as I said, I have a sister that's special needs, and there have been times where, even as young, because I'm the baby, so oftentimes I probably felt that as a kid, we could be very selfish, that all attention was being sent to her. But I know now, and I understand it. It's not just about artistic or kids of special needs. It's even regular kids, right? It's the same thing. If you have a sibling, there's sibling rivalry, and there's just a lot of stuff that come in with it.
Well, one of the things that, people don't understand about autistics is we see the world differently. We actually see the world differently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult for people to be in our shoes. And so, there's several different kinds of seeing. So there's circumstantial seeing, where if you're driving, well, let's see, if you're driving down the street, you're aware of your surroundings. Well, that's so you're unconscious of, how fast you're going. You're not paying attention to every single thing. You understand the circumstances around it, and you're able to drive. And then there's where you focus, you're focusing on the road. That's another kind of vision.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens with autistics is we see everything at one time. And
Mm.
so we're bombarded by stimuli all the time. And that means that I can't sometimes look you in the face and you're talking to me and I'm trying to figure out what your face is telling me.
Mm-hmm.
So I might turn my head, which means that I look like I'm rude and I'm not looking you in the eyes. And I will turn my head so that I can listen to what you're saying without trying to figure out what your body language and facial
Mm-hmm.
and your everything is telling me. And so people don't see, so when an autistic doesn't look people in the eyes, they think they're rude, and that's not it. The other part is, processing issues. So you might ask me a question, but because of the way my brain works, it may take me a few seconds or minutes to answer the question, which is, frustrating for people
Mm-hmm.
who are on a job. And
Right.
I teach coworkers how to deal with that as well. For example, when I was young, and had a multiple choice question, whenever we got multiple choice question, I would labor over the first one, looking at all the different answers, comparing and contrasting it. The whole class would be finished taking the test and I'd still be on the first question. So that's what processing issues look like. We also, don't a lot of people don't have boundaries. They don't know, because they're people pleasers. They don't know when to say no, or when they don't have discrimination. When somebody's not a good person, they can't figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Or they might irritate people by doing stimming. You know what stimming is?
Not exactly.
So they might be doing this, or twirling their hair, or
Oh,
biting
okay.
their nails, or rocking back and forth, or tapping their feet. So I took a group. So I have socials for them once a month, adult autistics. And
Mm-hmm.
they decided they all wanted to go to a movie together. So I thought, okay. So I took them in the middle of the afternoon so that, there wouldn't be a whole lot of people. And sure enough, talk about not having boundaries. They would talk to the screen, they talk to each other, they, try to, what did they talk? So everybody 10 people were talking simultaneously. Thank God there was nobody in the movie theater. And so I never did that again.
Mm-hmm.
So, these are the social, what happens is that because they have this whole perspective, they don't understand how the world works. It doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them have time management issues because time isn't important to them. They can't understand why we look at a clock to do what, rather than doing what we need to do. So, these are some of the kinds of issues, time management, money management. They just don't fit in because things don't make sense. One of the biggest things is the way the school day is created. You know, it just, why are you chopped up? Why are you leaving this topic in 55 minutes? Why can't we keep on going? They hyper focus. Why
Mm-hmm.
can't we keep on going with this topic? You'll miss the whole thing if you don't keep on going. So there's a lot of different, and one of the major things I see with autistics is bullying. I don't think I have ever met an autistic who hasn't been bullied at some point or another in their life. And, and this is something that's really challenging because it lasts forever. And, this is why they have difficulty in social relationships, is because they're not quite sure who they can trust.
Mm. That's so sad to hear that. Because I remember being in school and being bullied. So, you know, um,
Oh, you were bullied as well.
yes, I was bullied in school. So, and I remember a lot of times I spent my lunchtime in the office because I did not want to have to deal with the bullies. So, I get that, and it's great that you can sympathize and you understand what they're feeling, and it may be a challenge, but it's someone that can kind of understand exactly what they're feeling and helping them to get through those challenges. So, on an executive leadership role, I understand that you are the director of What Women Want.
What
So,
wise, what
I'm
wise,
sorry, What Wise Women Want.
yes.
How did that organization begin? What is its purpose? And how does it align with and complement your broader mission?
Well, as I said earlier, and by the way, wise is spelled with a Z
Mhm.
because what wise women want was already taken. So
Okay.
I spelled with a Z. So I lost my, as I said earlier, I lost my three best friends and I was floundering. You know, these were women that I thought I'd spend the rest of my life. We traveled together and things like that. And as an autistic, it's really difficult for me to make friends. I can go to a party of people that I know and stand outside the door or sit in a corner and
Mhm.
not interact with people. And so I have to force myself all the time to be out in the world because basically I'd rather sit home and write. But anyway, so I decided to start this women's group with, all the women that I was working with in the community. And when it first started, it was the most boring experience I've ever had because everybody wanted to talk about their businesses. And it wasn't what I was I wanted it to be much more of a social relationship kind of. And so I let it go. And within 2 years, it attracted the right kind because I visualized it
Mhm.
and I wrote affirmations about what I wanted. And those women showed up, and eventually several of them became best friends, and I started all over again, even though they're all younger than I am. But, you know, and what happened is they understood what I was moving towards in terms of building relationships rather than building businesses, so to speak.
Mhm.
And they shared experiences with each other. They were Democrats, Republicans, every religious persuasion, and everybody felt comfortable. It was so interesting because when COVID showed up, I had to stop. And once COVID was over, they were all begging me to start it all over again. And ironically, the restaurant we had meetings in closed because of COVID. But
Oh.
anyway, so they started talking to me and I realized that many of them did not have the skills they didn't know how to promote themselves. They didn't know how to talk on social media or on TV. And so I decided to have a TV show and I went to
Oh.
public television and I said, this is the TV show I want. And, can we make it happen? And they said, sounds fantastic. And it's a local station. It was local station doing local programming. So I would pick a topic and then I would ask 5 women to be on a panel to talk about that topic,
Okay.
knowing that maybe 4 would show up or 3 would show up because of, conflicts and things like that. Frankly, it was like herding cats, trying to get them on the same day at the same time. But anyway, so I have a wealth of shows with all kinds of topics related to women, family, education, business. You can find them all on YouTube under my name, Dr. Daria M. Brezinski. And what I did was I took that opportunity. So beforehand, I teach them how I give them all the questions. I had them, write out the answers before the show, and so they would feel comfortable. And, I taught them how to be it with the microphone, where the cameras were, how to talk in the camera. And many of them went on to do, blogs with social media. And in the process, I was also promoting all of their businesses or whatever it was they were doing. So, and those women, oftentimes they are the ones who send me clients, the ones who were on even though it had nothing to do with autism, many of the times, they say, hey, you need to go talk to Dr. Brezinski. She might be able to help you.
Mhm.
So, it wasn't spreading myself thin. It was really a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun developing and helping women to find their voice. And a lot of women don't have that opportunity. One of the reasons why I started this was the president of my bank sat me down one day and said, "Can you do something?" She said, "I have all these women whose husbands died, and the husband took care of the finances."
Mm.
And they have absolutely no idea what to do and end up losing their homes and their, livelihood and so we did programs on that. So, there's so much you can do with women and to promote women and to help them. A lot of women I discovered, I thought were confident and outspoken, and it turns out that that was their mechanism for hiding the fact that they weren't confident.
Yes.
So, once you get to intimately involved with people when you're doing something like a TV show or a social group, as you have your social group as well. You get to know these women intimately, and it's amazing how women can help women. Absolutely, absolutely amazing. I
Yeah.
will tell you that 80% of my work is pro bono. My one of my clients' mothers, she's an accountant, and she tallied the amount of time her son calls me constantly. They only pay for when I see them face to face.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me, "Do you realize you don't even make minimum wage with my son?"
Mm.
And so, but that's what feeds, a business, is putting yourself out there, helping other women, helping support them. I have phone calls all the time. People will call me and try to do a 2-hour session, initially, and then never call me again.
Mm.
So, but, you know, if your objective is selling, you're going to turn people off.
Yes.
If your objective is teaching and supporting other women, you're going to find your business to be very successful, which is what I have.
Absolutely. And the thing is that you're helping those families through these overcome challenges. There's so many challenges in the world, right? Socially, personal, professional. So you're guiding them through these transitions to help them be better leaders, be better sisters or brothers or mothers or fathers. So, my hat goes off to you. And, you know, that little saying, if you build it, they will come. I believe that in a nutshell, when you actually give, because we have to give value. I was speaking to a client the other day, or a potential client, we were speaking. And one thing that I did mention to her is that people do business with those that they know, like, and trust. So in order for them to know, like, and trust you, you have to be upfront. You have to get to know them one way or another. Now, some of us are very introverted, right? Introverts in terms of speaking. I do better when I do one-on-one. I'm getting better at speaking in front of folks, and everybody say, "Oh, you don't never look like you're nervous." I do. I'm very nervous when I stand up there because, one, I'm a perfectionist. And so I want everything to go perfect, just like, I'm looking around trying to make sure that everything is going well here. But I think, what you're doing is wonderful. And only when it's too much. Only hey, I don't need to do any more pro bonos. You know what I'm saying? So if it's working for you, who cares what other folks are saying and so forth. So let's kind of move it towards advice to women leaders. What advice would you give to women entrepreneurs or professionals who feel called to build a business? And that kind of lead into what we were talking about, right? and a specialized social impact space like yours?
Well, social impact automatically says relationships.
Mm.
And so, I do every kind of, if you haven't noticed, I have a really high IQ. So even though I may be autistic. And so what happens is that I've discovered that there are, so every one of my businesses, I started with no money. Okay. And I refuse to use my own money to start my businesses. So, for example, when I started the first environmentally friendly wholesale retail store in the United States, I went to 5 banks and I brought them together in one room. And I said, if each one of you gives me $5,000, if I go belly up, you'll only be out $5,000. And I wrote a 25-page plan. And I said, this is what I'm doing bit by bit by bit. And I said, sorry, that was my other business. My uh, I bit by bit by bit, I will pay you back. And
Mhm.
so what happened was, this is my education business. And what happened was I paid them back in 6 months, and they ended up starting a program in Charlottesville of $25,000, where each one, gives $5,000 to a startup entrepreneur.
Mhm.
My eco business, sorry, my eco business, I went to business people and people who were successful in business. And I said, if each one, I had 20 of them sitting around a table. I said, if each one of you gives me $2,000, how I will pay you back is you come into the store and buy merchandise, and I'll even give you interest. So all 20 of them gave me money, and I started my eco store, and I would say half of them never came into the store to get their $2,000 of
Wow.
merchandise. So, but integrity is really important in business, especially if you're doing, a social kind of business.
Absolutely.
People find out that you are dishonest, that, you're not who you say you are. If anything like that exists, they're not going to want to do business with you. And if you're constantly out there trying to sell, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but if I meet a person and they're always talking to me about their business all the time, I avoid them completely.
Yes. Same
But
here.
but if but if it's somebody who comes up to me and actually listens to me and isn't somebody who's trying to figure out what they're going to say next,
Mhm.
somebody who's actually listening to me, those are the kind of people I surround myself with. And, so you need to know that this is how business works. If you really, I was demonstrating to one of my autistic clients the other day, we were out and he was dropping off his resumes at different businesses. And what I did was I spoke to every single person that he handed his resume to, asking them about themselves, something about themselves that I noticed, that I
Mhm.
really like your shirt. Wow, where did you get that watch? Those are beautiful earrings. And when we would leave, I said to him, this is how you build your relationships in business. You talk to people and you find out they want you to see them.
Right.
Everybody wants to be seen. And the more you see them instead of yourself, the more they will be interested in you.
Yes. And it's the same as saying, they don't say it, but the person who's looking to get your service, they want to know what is it in it for me. So um I feel the same way. I've had several people to say, because we have a pretty nice group, right? A fairly large group. We usually run 40 to 50 women each month. And, I've
Yeah,
been
didn't mean
told,
last month because there were too many.
oh yes, we
That's
had
Friday.
we had to pull out more tables last month. Oh well, yeah, yeah, last month. The
Friday.
months are passing so fast. Yeah, last Friday. But they're like, you probably get so many clients through this. This is not the purpose of what I do. I do this because I have a love for connecting folks. I'm very passionate about folks' well-being. So if I get business out of it, so be it. But that's not my sole purpose of starting what I do, because I have a love and a passion for helping others. And I think that's what has happened with our society. We've come so far to the left with wanting to help others that we just seem to not have that passion like we used. We used to be morally good, right?
Yep.
But there seemed to not be any of that anymore. But it's okay. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Even if it's one of us, each one teach one, each one share what we're doing, and I think it'll begin to catch on with others.
Well, you know that I drive, you know this, I drive 2 hours to come to your meeting.
Absolutely.
I live so far away
And thank
because
you.
it is the most incredible group of women I have ever, open and loving and just amazing
Thank
women
you.
I
Thank
have
you.
ever met. They are
Yes.
just incredible.
Thank
And there
you.
may be 50, and sometimes you don't get to talk to everybody you want to talk to, but it is an extraordinary group of women, and
Mm.
I value. I couldn't get in last time because there were I couldn't register because there were too many registrations. But so it's wonderful, and I look forward every month to your. It's one of the few women's groups that I go to
Mhm.
anymore, just because I feel so welcome and
Yes.
so comfortable with and supported in
Mhm.
this group.
So I'm
So that's
excited.
all, but that's all about you. You created this. And so, and I invite women all the time to come to your group, especially if I know they're going to be in your area.
You
So,
do, you do. And just like when we came to your group, your Chesterfield group, Miss Monroe, she's beginning to come. Matter of fact, she's going to be our speaker for this month. So it's exciting to be able to do that extension. We are wanting to expand, and I'm looking forward to it. As you know, we're not a membership group. We do this luncheon once a month, and it's just a way for us to take some time out for ourselves. Um, so as we talked about the advice of giving women entrepreneurs and so forth, tell me, and I know you have so much that's going on, the books that you've written, the podcasts, and all everything of that nature. What exciting project programs or initiatives are on the horizon that we should be watching out for?
well, I wrote 4 books during COVID, and once COVID ended, my business was 24/7. So I never got to edit or publish my books. So that's my at least one edit and publish this year.
Mhm.
But I also teach courses on YouTube. And so if you go to my YouTube channel, I teach 2 courses, autism, yeah, causes, characteristics, and choices we make. And the other course I teach is understanding school shooters.
Okay.
So a lot of school districts have taken that course. As a matter of fact, I've spoken before Congress about it as well. I have speaking engagements everywhere. Tomorrow, I'm being interviewed for a book about autistic adults, and they're going to write a chapter on me.
Oh,
Um, in next month, I'll be speaking in Washington, D.C. at the Washington, D.C. Rotary.
wonderful.
So I speak at community centers all the time. And what I suggest is you go to visit my sites, uh, funonthespectrum.com or whatwisewomenwant.com, or find me on LinkedIn, or I'm on Instagram and, all the others, Blue Sky.
Mhm.
And you can get updated on the various kinds of things that I'm doing. Because I constantly get asked. And I will tell you that one of the great places if you want to do public speaking or you want to get yourself out there. LinkedIn is a great place to, this is where I get many, many of my speaking engagements.
Mhm.
So, but the thing I learned from one of my clients, who I got at 21 years old, he uh, he had spent 3 years in his room.
Mhm.
He didn't speak, and all he wanted to do was die, he told me.
Oh,
He now has 290,000 followers on YouTube, and he's taught me how to, he sells merchandise, he does all kinds of things. And he's taught me how to do social networking. And the thing about social networking he taught me was be prepared to publish every day.
yes.
You want to keep your audience, you've got to keep publishing every day. And if you see me on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
I never publish anything about myself. I always publish something wonderful somebody has done,
Mhm.
something somebody has done.
Yes, you do.
And it gets me, I mean, I can have 6,000 people like a post, in one day. So these are all the different kinds of techniques. However, it's extremely time consuming, which is why I get up at 5:30 in the morning.
Mhm.
It's extremely time consuming because if you're a reader, if you read newspapers or magazines or things like that, that you can post constantly, which is what I do. That's where I get a lot of my material from. So, but I will tell you that social networking is all about, if you want to delve into it, you've got to do it constantly in order to be able to build. I have 25,000 followers, which is not very much, but those people I have it. So those people repost, and those reposts go to people that I'm not connected to who end up trying to connect with me.
Mhm.
So, if you want to do social media, just keep in mind that you've got to keep active all the time in order to be able to create an audience.
Yes. And as you know, I do social media as well. But use some of the tools that are out there. As we say in New Orleans, there are buku tools out there. So use some of the tools that are out there that can automate your sessions, and then that way you work smarter and not harder.
Yes.
But thank you so much for sharing information. That would be my next question to, where we can find more about you. So thank you for sharing your website. And,
Well, if anybody knows anybody from ages 4 to 55 who needs help with, somebody with autism, you can reach me email at Daria, Daria, at, this is short for my name, darb.com. Or you can find my email on any of the websites that I'm on.
absolutely. Well, thank you again so much for, your wisdom today, your insight, your experience, and, your heart. We can truly feel it through these rays of the media, right? That you're about and helping, and we're just grateful what you've shared with our Lagniappe community. To everyone watching, thank you for being part of this powerful experience. And if today's discussion inspired you, be sure to subscribe, share, and stay connected so you never miss a moment. This
Thank
has
you so
been
much for having me. I really, truly appreciate it. And all the things that you do as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So listen, guys, this has been Lagniappe Live with Helena, the Business Spotlight, where stories create impact and voices inspire growth. And remember, don't go anywhere. Stay here. We'll be right back with our closing spotlight. So give us a minute here.
Thank you for spending time with us on Lagniappe Live with Helena, the Business Spotlight. We go live Wednesdays at noon, and we'd love for you to meet us there. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube so you never miss a spotlight, and join our Facebook community, where the conversation continues, connections are made, and support shows up in real time. If today's conversation resonated with you, we'd love to stay connected. Please share it with someone who needs to hear it, or come back and watch the replay. This is a community, and there's always room for you here. Until next time, keep showing up, standing out, and doing what you do best.